Growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, and into the 2000s, Nintendo console launches were some of the most highly anticipated events of our lives.
You're on candid camera.
Starting with the Super Nintendo in 1991, my dad made sure that we experienced every single Nintendo console launch there was, usually on day one, sometimes even before day one.
Oh my God! That's the Nintendo 64.
But for as much love as we had for new hardware and these amazing moments in video game history, Nintendo sometimes botched the launch. And in this video, I'm going to go through my top 10 picks for most botched Nintendo console launches of all time.
Rare.
That's great when some things die, huh?
Yep.
Hey friends, here's a quick update on where we are in our dream of going full-time with My Retro Life. We're just around $200 shy of our $3,000 a month goal on Patreon and YouTube memberships. That seriously blows my mind.
Thanks a lot! Yes!
If you want to help push us over the edge, consider joining for just $1 or more. There are multiple tiers with cool rewards and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Thank you so much for believing in this dream. We're almost there, guys. Now, on to the video. Coming in at number 10, it's the Game Boy Color. Released in 1999, the Game Boy Color was the first true sequel or follow-up hardware to the original Game Boy, which came out in 1989. That's right, 10 years later, Nintendo was finally going to give us something new in the world of portables. And for this console, it really wasn't a major improvement. Granted, at the time, it seemed like a big deal. I mean, 8-bit graphics, full color on your Game Boy? I mean, this was like taking your NES on the road with you. And honestly, for a lot of us, including myself, this wasn't really a big deal. For years and years, we had the Sega Game Gear, which was full color and basically a portable Sega Master System. You mean to tell me it took Nintendo all this time and all these years to finally give us what Sega had already given us for the past 10 years? It really wasn't very impressive, even for myself back then at the age of 13. I mean, I was playing home consoles like the Sega Dreamcast and Nintendo 64, and Game Boy Color just felt like too little, too late. Coming in at number 9, it's the Nintendo DS. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Tyler, what's wrong with you? The Nintendo DS is one of the greatest Nintendo consoles ever made. Well, we're talking about botched console launches here, and when you think back to the Nintendo DS when it first came out, it really wasn't blowing our minds, at least for me and Dad. I remember specific talks with Dad where we were complaining about how bulky this clamshell-looking portable looked, how it really wasn't boasting anything too impressive. The only thing the DS had going for it at launch was the proof of concept. This idea of a dual-screen portable gaming device. That was something brand new and very exciting. I remember when I first got to mess around with a Nintendo DS, I was working as a seasonal employee at EB Games. We opened up the demo unit and we got to mess around with it, all the employees that were working there at the time. We each took a turn with it and it was very unique. It was very interesting and I wanted one for sure. But when I think back to this release, I really feel like Nintendo at launch didn't really give us much. I mean, we had Super Mario 64 basically remade for the DS. And other than that, the launch lineup was really slim. I mean, we did have Feel the Magic by Sega, which was pretty cool. It had some good mini games that utilized the touchscreen. But the best was yet to come with this console, and it really wasn't too impressive at launch, let's face it. At number 8, it's the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're probably thinking, you've totally lost your mind here, Tyler. What are you talking about? Well, when you think back to the launch of the Nintendo Entertainment System, the original NES, which basically helped save the entire video game industry, Nintendo, the only way they could get retailers to even stock this system was by disguising it as a toy. That's right. Rob the Robot was included with every Nintendo system when it first launched in 1985, and this was really just a gimmick to get it in the stores. Now, brilliant on part by Nintendo to do this, knowing the uphill battle they faced with retailers, but this confused a lot of people in the early months of the rollout that happened across America. My dad actually used to tell me about how when the console first launched, he really didn't think much of it. In fact, he thought it was a toy, to the point where a friend of his picked one up and told him it was awesome, that it was amazing, it was the next step in video games. And Dad couldn't believe him. He actually saw the marketing, saw the commercials, literally thought it was a toy. And I think a lot of people felt that way and thought that way when it first came out. And so they kind of botched it a bit with the robot. Let's face it, Rob the Robot wasn't a great start for the NES, but it did become the behemoth, the titan of the video game industry. Coming in at number 7, it's the Game Boy Advance. Guys, when the Game Boy Advance first came out, we wanted to love this thing so bad, and we eventually came around to it and loved it. But when it first came out, let's face it, guys, Nintendo really botched it. The screen was hardly visible. You could not even see this thing without having direct sunlight or, an adjacent lamp pointed right at the screen. This was terrible, especially launching with a game like Castlevania Circle of the Moon, which was such a dark game naturally, the way Konami designed it.
I won this game 4 times so far, and I'm on the 5th mode.
It was so hard to see this screen. I remember squinting and turning the Game Boy Advance every which way I could to make this work. And I'm telling you guys, it was such a nuisance. It was a pain in the neck. Literally, you'd crane your neck and you'd get stiff neck positioning yourself. And Game Boy Advance, man, it eventually became a fantastic console with future revisions like the SP. But man, that original model back in 2001, they really messed it up. Coming in at number 6, it's Nintendo GameCube. I know a lot of you are probably like, hold on, Tyler, pump the brakes. Nintendo GameCube, are you kidding me? Yeah, think back to 2001 and the Nintendo GameCube. For as much as I loved it, and I loved getting that console, what a magical memory I have of me and my dad importing the original Nintendo GameCube back in the day. That one goes down in the history books for me. But guys, let's face it, when it came out, they sort of botched the launch by not including a Mario game at launch. At the time, as Nintendo fans, we were all predisposed to expecting a Nintendo flagship first-party Mario game either packed in with the console like Super Mario World was, or available at launch like Mario 64. And of course, Super Mario Brothers before it. It just made sense. And to have Luigi's Mansion, as much as I came to love that game and it grew on me, I can't say we weren't disappointed that it wasn't a Mario game. It was cool. It was unique. It was a game that I still love to this day. But not having a Mario game packed in, or at least available for the GameCube, that was a huge missed opportunity. And I think it kind of affected sales in the long run. We eventually got Super Mario Sunshine, and I do love that game. But even Super Mario Sunshine, over the course of history and time, is considered one of the weaker Super Mario 3D Super Mario games. There's a lot about the GameCube that kind of missed the mark. And that's why it's here at this spot on the list. Coming in at number 5, it's Nintendo 64. Well, let's be honest, guys. As much as Nintendo 64 was revolutionary and it changed gaming, and it's one of my favorite console launches of all time, the memories I have around that system and the time Dad and I spent buying every Nintendo 64 game that came out over a span of several months. Let's be honest here, when it came out, they kind of messed up by only having like 2 games available for the longest time, it felt like. Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wings. And that was it, basically. For so long, we waited. It felt like months before we saw another game, and that was Wave Race. I remember when Wave Race came out, it was like, oh, finally some sustenance on the Nintendo 64. And when I think of other console releases in this era, Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, Sega Saturn even, there were more games. There were a lot more games, and it was a much more impressive library for a lot of other consoles. But Nintendo 64, all it had was Super Mario 64, basically. If you weren't a Pilot Wings fan, especially if you weren't like a racing game fan, Wave Race, I love Wave Race, but I can imagine for a lot of people, they only had Mario 64 for the longest time. And this is where I feel like they kind of botched it. And that's why it's on the list. Coming in at number 4, yes, you guessed it, it would be on this list, the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, this console just came out as of the release of this video, and there's a lot of controversy around how Nintendo rolled this system out. Even though the sales numbers are way up there, I mean, some people are reporting that this thing is breaking records, 3 million, I heard, in a few days. That is remarkable. But let's face it, folks. At $500 with a bundled-in digital download code for Mario Kart World, what you have here is, in a lot of respects, more of the same as well. It's a Nintendo Switch 2, but it feels sort of like a Nintendo Switch Pro. Like they didn't give us that next-gen feel that Nintendo has become known for several console generations. Even in the innovation department, it feels like Nintendo has kind of missed the mark. Whereas with the Switch, the original Switch 1, man, that was a game changer. And the graphics may have been a generation behind, but man, did it ever change how we all played video games. I can't help but look at this as sort of a botched launch. It's not that I don't love the console and love the memories I'm already creating with my daughter through it.
Second place, third place, and oh no, fourth. Well, hey, that's still pretty good.
I hate you, Donkey Kong.
What did Donkey Kong ever do to you?
It's safe to say we're going to look back at this one as something that Nintendo could have done better at launch. I have full faith that the console will go on to be a huge seller, if not a even bigger seller than the Switch 1. And they're going to give us amazing games, but I'm putting it here on this list because everything about this launch, it could have been better. It really could have. Coming in at number 3, it's the Nintendo 3DS. How appropriate at number 3, 3DS. Now, you gotta know that this was going to be up here on the list because let's face it, the 3DS, for as much as that console went on to sell like hotcakes over the years, guys, when it first launched, oh my gosh, they really messed it up. I mean, there really wasn't hardly anything available as far as a killer app, something that you really wanted to buy the system for. The system kind of just came out and it promoted all of these like really great new features and, 3D gameplay without the use of 3D glasses. That was super cool. It was a step up from the DS and it was much more powerful. It had tons of promise, and I went back and forth on this console so many times. I bought it at launch because I loved, Nintendo, and brand new Nintendo hardware was super exciting, but I ended up selling it like 6 months into owning it because there were no games coming out. In fact, Nintendo realized that the fans were not happy with how this system was rolling out and how there was hardly anything to play. So they created an ambassadors program, which rewarded those first launch buyers, those first people that bought the console. It gave them like a bunch of rewards and free downloads from the eShop. And just to say, we're sorry, we know it took a long time for this system to really find its feet. And that was good for Nintendo to do that. But man, for lacking games, lacking a great library for a long period of time, the 3DS, it's one of the most botched launches. It didn't sell well upon its first initial release, and it took a long time for that engine to really rev up. Coming in at number 2, it's Virtual Boy. Oh my gosh, Virtual Boy, so notorious for being basically the worst selling and really worst conceived Nintendo console of all time. I got one back in the day, but we waited on this thing, guys. I mean, we waited until it was being discounted at Target for like $20. It was basically a helmet that you stuck your face into, and you got to experience pseudo 3D in this like red and black doom chamber is what it felt like. I mean, I couldn't really play it very long without having to pull my head out of it and not get overheated. It was so awkward, horribly designed. And guys, I don't know if any of you remember this, but I remember going to retailers and, Toys R Us, Target, and there being kiosks, demo units for the Virtual Boy. And you didn't want to ever stick your head in this thing because the few times you did, you stuck your head in it and you realized, oh my gosh, I smell and I feel the sweat and the disgust of every other kid and person that has stuck their head and their face into this thing. It was so badly conceived, and it's notorious. I mean, it's the low point for Nintendo. They wish people would forget about it. Virtual Boy was Nintendo's way of trying to bring home virtual reality, VR technology before the technology was really ready to be brought home. We weren't there. We were obsessed with the concept of virtual reality in the 90s, but it was by far not a reality. It was far from a reality. Coming in at number 1, it's the Wii U. And you knew the Wii U would be PU at the top of this list. Guys, oh my gosh. I love the Wii U for the nostalgia I even have for it. Just, 10 plus years since its release. This was the console that I got when Megan and I first got married. It was our first year of marriage. I got the console at launch, and I have a lot of great memories of just that season of my life. And when I play Wii U games, it all comes back. But this was definitely the most botched Nintendo console launch of all time. Calling this thing the Wii U, it made every consumer feel like this was not even the follow-up console, that this was maybe an accessory or maybe a slight upgrade. But this is a case where it's just the name alone that really was the biggest driving factor in why it failed. And if it was called something brand new, like Nintendo Revolution or something like that, even to this day, I think about it, I'm like, what were they thinking? Did they really think that would be appealing? On top of that, the tablet that was the main selling factor for this thing, really, it overpromised and underdelivered. None of the games that came out really utilized it to its fullest extent. And the games, too, just weren't there for the longest time. I mean, at launch, we had New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, which was a sequel to New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but people were so confused because it was practically titled the same thing except for Wii U at the end. So it maybe felt like another iteration or an upgrade on that older game. Just the naming conventions were so badly done. And yeah, there was no major killer app on this thing until Mario Kart came out. And that took a while. It took a while for Mario Kart 8 to come out, and that was a system seller, but it was too little, too late. Such is a common theme on this list for a lot of these consoles. And let's face it, guys, Nintendo Wii U, everybody remembers that as the most botched launch of the entire Nintendo console library. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely a fun look back at the worst and most botched Nintendo console launches of all time. Again, as I stated before, this is not my personal opinion on these consoles being bad consoles. No, these, in many cases, are some of the greatest Nintendo consoles that went on to sell really well after the initial launch. The consoles that are on this list were on this list because Nintendo really failed to launch these consoles well. They had terrible launches, and that's why they're on the list. If there's a console in Nintendo's repertoire that you feel like should have been on my list, definitely let me know in the comments below. I want to hear about it. And if this is your first time to the channel, do consider subscribing. I love talking about my game crazy family and all of the amazing adventures we had with video games, so many of which were caught on tape by Dad. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you next time.